Now,
on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:07. Let's go. 5th day of October. And we're chugging along on a Thursday morning as we learned yesterday that apparently a huge chunk of members of the House of Representatives think that it would be a great idea for Donald Trump to not only run for president and defend himself against criminal charges in 4 different jurisdictions as well as civil charges in New York, but also be the Speaker of the House of Representatives. I mean, the man is a multitasker. So we'll get into that a little later. It's 6:35. Zach Smith from the Edwin Meese Center at Heritage Foundation will give us his take on what needs to change in D.C. with regard to crime. 8:05.
That's a lot.
Andy McCarthy will be here. And then at 8:35, Susan Fried Show on the latest on everybody who's running for House of Representatives. Here's a person who is not running for the Speaker of the House, and that's Mercedes Schlapp.
Well, I was going to announce on the show today that I was going to run for Speaker of the House. I mean,
think you
you don't have to be an elected member of Congress. Why not? A feisty Cuban, chick. Let's go.
It's true.
I say, why not? I'm throwing my name in the ring.
Well,
it's official.
When Gold Bar Bob Menendez gets pushed out, we're going to need more Cuban representation. I wanted to ask you, Mercedes, it's taken a week for me.
How can you connect me with Senator
because
Bob Menendez.
When Bob Menendez was it's like, why do you have all this cash in gold bars? He goes, well, what can I say? I'm Cuban. So I was like, next time I'm over at Mad Mercedes, I got to go check out all their drawers. Yeah, I got to go to the bathroom, guys, and then look for
check for gold bars.
all the cash between your mattresses.
Do.
Yeah, is that what you Cubans do?
Can I tell you? I did when I dated these Cuban boys back in the young days in Miami. The guys, they loved wearing those gold big chains. I never quite understood it. Now I know.
Now you know. See, Bob Menendez just melted down all his gold chains
gold
in the bars.
It's amazing.
Hold on. You know what? We were going to talk about Hunter Biden and the corruption at the Justice Department.
Well, you know what I want to talk about.
I want to talk about the Cuban boys in Miami that you dated. That's what I want to talk about.
There weren't a lot, let me tell you. I was not their type.
Honestly, they must have been really, really sad and pathetic for you to then turn to Matt Schlapp as the answer.
Well, you know what would happen is we were young. You'd go out in Miami, and then all of a sudden you go to these places, and then I'd ask them, I'm like, so who are you going to vote for in the next presidential election? And at that point, they were like, "Oh my goodness, I can never date this girl."
They were either liberal or just didn't. They were clueless.
No, they were more concerned about their muscle mass than they were about like if they had big muscles. Then
we're told
we're going to save this country.
We're told that hot women like you, Mercedes, are only interested in men who were like that's what pop culture tells me. You go to Instagram and all you see are these men with like rippling biceps and pecs, and I've got a dad bod, right? So are you telling me that you're not as interested in the physical physique? And
no, but if they have some gold bars, that really could help.
That's how Bob Menendez makes it, man. Okay.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, thank you for connecting the dots on your very, very exciting, youthful dating life.
Thank you for letting me go back to my youth for quite some time.
I do love the way you say Miami.
After 21 years of being married to Matt Schlapp, and I'm going back thinking, I can't even remember my younger years.
Name me one of the hot Cuban men that you dated. Give me their name.
I can't
can you even remember
their names? What if they're like listening to the show? I can't.
They'll feel
special.
I
have to protect their identity.
All right. Did you give any dating advice to the girl? You've got 2 girls off to college now. God knows what happens over there in South Bend, Indiana, with the men.
Not a lot.
Have you said here? Did you say, okay, go out on a date and just start talking presidential politics, and that'll tell you everything you need to know?
Yeah, no. I think my sweet children decide that they just really try to avoid the conversation of politics. They're more into are they good Catholics, good conservatives, God-fearing individuals? That's what they're looking for. And Republicans, of course.
Well, as soon as they do start talking politics, the guy is going to say, wait a minute, what is your last name again?
What is your last name? Oh, believe me, that's happened several times.
I bet it has.
And sometimes it's very detrimental. It's the end of the date for the girls.
You know what? Screw them then. Honestly, that tells you everything you need to know.
Yes.
I have to tell you, my daughters, when they were off to college, I had to have a conversation with them about, listen, because one kid went to college in Los Angeles, and I had a talk radio show in Los Angeles at the time, and my other daughter went to college in Annapolis, and of course I have a talk radio show here, and so I to both of them, I said, guys, I'm really sorry, but you're part of my life, and I talk about you on the air. And if this comes up and it gets in the way of your friendships, your relationships, I'm really sorry about that.
Yeah.
I'm going to do my best to. And my daughter said to me, she said, "Dad, anybody who is going to determine whether they're going to be my friend or not, or is going to date me or not, based on who you are, is not somebody that I'm interested in having in my life anyway." And I almost started crying.
Oh, that's so
Isn't
sweet.
that sweet?
You'd
It was,
be a
in
great
fact, it
in-law,
was my
too.
more liberal daughter who said that too, the
Wow.
one who went to
Yeah.
UCLA. So
Yeah, but I mean, you would be a great in-law. Are you kidding me? We
That's
tried
what
to marry
I
off our
think.
kids, and that just didn't really go anywhere.
I know
but-
we did. Wait, have we revealed this on the air? Your number 2 and my number 3. We tried to set them up.
We tried.
They had one sort of date. I mean, I brought Christian over to the house. You
Yes.
and me and Matt and Meredith, we were like hanging out upstairs, and the kids were downstairs sort of getting to know each other, but nothing really came of it, sadly. It's all right. These things happen. We need to make sure that Mercedes is all set there with regard to her. Something's wrong with her headphones. All right, we'll get the headphones working. In the meantime, let me shift now from our torrid dating lives and that of our children, for that matter. It would have been great to merge the O'Connor and Schlapp families in some way. I still got one more son that I could marry off to one of you, and you've got 3 more daughters, Mercedes, so we can work that through. In the meantime, we do have an update, several updates on the corruption at the Biden Justice Department. Where do we begin? Let's start with John Solomon, a very well-sourced investigative reporter in Washington, D.C., as you know, and a frequent guest on this program. At justthenews.com, he is revealing now, according to emails, that the Merrick Garland Justice Department, within days of the inauguration of Joe Biden, immediately sought a high-level briefing on the Hunter Biden criminal case. Now, of course, apologists for the Biden administration and for Merrick Garland will say, well, there's nothing wrong with that. A new attorney general coming in, new U.S. attorneys coming in. Of course, they're going to want to be briefed on all of the high-level cases that are going on in investigations. Okay, yeah, a couple of things about that. First of all, David Weiss, the U.S. attorney in Delaware, as we've been told endlessly by the media and by the Biden administration and by Merrick Garland himself, David Weiss was a Trump appointee. He was a carryover. So he should have just been able to be left alone to do his business and conduct his investigation. There's no reason to give a briefing to the attorney general or to the Biden administration in any way whatsoever, number one. Number two, we've been told endlessly that the Justice Department was completely hands-off, that there was no interference, there wasn't even any communications between the Justice Department and Weiss's office and anybody who was conducting an investigation into Hunter Biden. So why on earth would the Justice Department, within 2 weeks of the inauguration, need to have this high-level, thorough briefing? That's a good question. We'll start getting into the details of this and a couple of other corrupt stories coming out of the Biden White House in just a moment. But
Mark Levin, weekdays 6 till 9 p.m.
On News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
So it was just 16 days after the inauguration, Mercedes, when Merrick Garland's Justice Department demanded a full briefing on the investigation into Hunter Biden and the criminal case. Now, this alarmed agents at the time because some attendees from the Justice Department, including Biden political appointees, had no authority in the case. Merrick Garland continued to say that there was no DOJ interference, that they didn't have anything to do with this. They were hands-off. David Weiss had full authority. And if that's the case, then why then is David Weiss and his whole team brought forth and commanded to give a full briefing to the new attorney general? Obviously, there was a message sent here. And it reeks of
Yes.
obstruction of justice.
Yeah, this goes back to the fact that as we're going to continue to see these whistleblowers come out, these committee hearings happening on the Hill, in terms of what happened, what was the timeline when it came to these cases, and it brings up the disturbing. We go back to the time that even when they were talking about the Steele dossier, where you had, for example, the FBI director briefing Obama, briefing Biden at the time against Trump, and so. This is very troubling. It's the constant concern of the Bidens, of the Democrats covering up for their own, and utilizing the Department of Justice to do just that.
Right, as a weapon against their political opponents, against their political foes. That appears to continue because we have an alarming report coming out of Newsweek that suggests that the FBI is now targeting Trump supporters as potential domestic terrorists. We'll get into that a little bit later as well. But you're right, Mercedes, to point to this pattern of behavior. And here's the latest. You talk about brazen corruption from the Biden administration. One of the key elements to the Hunter Biden investigation that is now proceeding as an impeachment inquiry are two whistleblowers. One of them who appears to be apolitical. These are from the IRS. The other whistleblower is a lifelong Democrat, a gay man who is married and is a Democrat, right? And they both testified. They're both whistleblowers. There have been reports, especially with regard to the first whistleblower, Gary Shapley, that he has been demoted or kept from promotion, and there have been repercussions against him as a whistleblower, right, which is against the law. And there is a department, an office of the special counsel in the federal government whose sole purpose, or one of its purposes, I should say, is to look at and adjudicate charges of retaliation against whistleblowers. So this is a key position for government ethics, for ensuring that there isn't corruption. And Joe Biden just named a man to run this office who's supposed to oversee any retaliatory efforts against whistleblowers. And the guy he appointed is a former business partner of Hunter Biden. You cannot make this crap up.
You cannot make this up.
Are you?
You got to ask yourself, like, it's not just President Biden. Remember, it's the White House counsel. It's certain folks at the White House that they would literally, folks at the Department of Justice who would come and make these recommendations to the president. So it's so troubling to me that they actually think the Department of Justice can get away with this. And in terms of this individual who has been nominated, who was a former colleague of Hunter Biden, how can there not be bias? This is not independent in any way.
It's insane. Congress has been pressing the office of the special counsel to investigate retaliation against Gary Shapley and other whistleblowers who were trying to do the right thing and show that there is obstruction of justice and misdeeds in the Justice Department and other various parts of the Biden administration, specifically when it comes to the Hunter Biden investigation. And so now Biden says, oh, well, let's put this guy, his name is Hampton Dellinger.
Dellinger.
They worked together at a law firm in D.C., and in 2014, Hunter Biden hired that law firm to represent Burisma, the Ukrainian gas company that is at the center of the bribery charges. This is the corruption is right there before our very eyes.
And you can't say, well, they were in two different areas. They never saw each other. No. There's emails that show that Dellinger and Hunter Biden, they crossed paths on numerous occasions. They arranged a lunch date in February of 2014. They went to a dinner party for the law firm's partners in March of 2014. Give me a break. You can't. Hello. Larry, there's more lawyers than there are radio hosts out there. You can't find a lawyer out there, really?
Excuse me. I think
from another law firm and just put him in this office of special counsel.
Not to critique you, but I think
DOJ
it's no. You're right.
Bureaucrats,
but I think that the funnier punchline is podcast hosts, not radio. There actually is a limited number of radio hosts because of the bandwidth on the FM and AM dial. But
podcasts, radio hosts.
Anybody can be a podcaster. I mean, literally. I mean, you just plug in a mic.
What I'm trying to tell you is that there's more lawyers in the Washington, D.C. swamp area than there are radio hosts. That's all I'm saying.
The person who is actually handling the valet parking at the Four Seasons is a lawyer in D.C.
Exactly.
He's a D.C. lawyer.
Uber driver.
Just waiting for the new administration.
I mean, come on.
No, but the only guy to do the job is the
great.
guy who used to work for Burisma with Hunter Biden.
Exactly.
There's nothing to see here. No corruption at all. It's 5:23. The corruption runs deep here as the Biden administration. Here's the problem with this corruption from the Biden administration. They're so brazen about it. They're not even trying to cover it up, as they now name a former law partner. Clarence Thomas is told that he's supposed to recuse himself because he, went hunting one day with a group of 30 people, and one of them happened to be. But here, this guy literally was hired by Hunter Biden to represent Burisma, and now he's going to be the guy sniffing out whether there was any sort of retaliation against whistleblowers. This is despicable. Just add this to the list for the impeachment inquiry. But the problem here, Mercedes, is, are you concerned about where this impeachment inquiry is headed now because of the lack of speaker? And now we're told Jim Jordan is one of the ones who might want to be Speaker of the House. That means he can't be the chairman of Judiciary anymore. And I want him in that position going after the Biden crimes. I think he's a good man for that job. Are you worried about that?
No, I'm not. Look, I think that I think the Congress is going to come out with, or I would say the House Republicans are going to end with a stronger speaker. I think someone who will be able to unify the Republican conference. And whether it's a Jim Jordan or a Steve Scalise, or, there's so many great
Donald Trump
possibilities. I think Donald Trump should just keep running for president at this moment. But I think, look, I think you've got James Comer. They'll shift some seats around, but you've got such a strong Judiciary Committee that they'll be able to keep moving forward on this impeachment inquiry, especially when they keep uncovering more and more of what's happening with the Hunter Biden investigation, to say. But we did have a one of the listeners who mentioned, does the nominee for the House of Special Counsel have to go through the Senate for confirmation? My understanding is no.
Wait, they are confirmed by the Senate. They are confirmed by the Senate.
Are they really?
Yeah, I'm looking right now. As far as
how
you can.
How can that be? How did they confirm James? I don't.
No, it's not. It's different than the special investigator.
Oh, the
this
special
this is the
you're
Office
saying
of
the
Special
Office
Counsel.
Of Special Counsel. Yes, you're right.
If you look, but going back to all the way back.
Oh, he's nominated. Okay, I'm waking up.
Yeah, going all the way back to the 1970s, they do have a voice vote. Now, I don't know whether there are hearings or what have you, but they are absolutely. The latest one is Henry Kerner was nominated in October of 2017, and he was confirmed by the 115th United States Senate by voice vote. So there is a confirmation process, and that should be an interesting line of questioning. I hope Senator Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley take that up.
Well, I hope that Mitch McConnell doesn't allow this to go through. That's the other piece of this, right? Where you get the Republicans in line to say this is.
I'm counting on Mitch McConnell. I sure am.
Yeah.
No, maybe we'll just add this to the list of what Senator Tuberville is engaged in there with regard to nominations, and that should be quite a bit. All right, moving on. Mercedes and I are absolutely loaded for bear. Coming up, the latest immigration news. Remember how Joe Biden basically ran his entire campaign on the idea of stopping the construction of the wall, right? Not 1 foot of the wall will be built under my watch. He even sold much of the materials off at a discount. Well, as of yesterday, apparently things have changed. And Joe Biden is saying, build that wall. We'll tell you all about it next.
Now,
On News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
5:37 now on O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in here on a super busy Thursday morning. I'm glad we've got Mercedes Schlapp to help us through the entire proceedings. Are you drinking like one of those teeny bopper energy drinks? Is that what's going on?
Yeah,
here?
it's the Celsius. I wanted
Celsius.
to do coffee,
the
but
kids love Celsius.
They do. Well, it's like the teenage daughters keep you young.
Yeah.
What can I tell you?
I still drink old man coffee over here. Sorry.
I love old man coffee. It's just not working today.
Coming up at 6:35, Zach Smith spent several years as the assistant U.S. attorney in the Northern District of Florida. He's been very critical of the U.S. attorney in the District of Columbia with regard to crime. The U.S. attorney, did I say district attorney? The U.S. attorney in D.C., they're responsible for a lot of the prosecutions of these criminals, and they're just not doing their job. We'll talk to Zach Smith about that. 8:05, Andy McCarthy on the civil trial in New York that Donald Trump appeared at yesterday. And then Susan Friccio joins us at 8:35 to talk about the race for speaker. I don't think it's any surprise that Donald Trump, one of his main campaign statements of 2016, one of the things that actually won him the election was the idea that he wanted to build a border wall on our southern border, right? And that goes without saying. And most of it, or much of it, I should say, was constructed under his watch. And the final, despite the protestation of Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell, who didn't really help matters. If you remember, he wanted that to be a priority in the first 100 days. And Paul Ryan said, no, let's do tax cuts first.
Let's do tax cuts.
Let's do
and you know what the
tax
president
cuts.
said? I remember. Can I tell you a funny story? So at the White House, we were there, and we were trying to find a name for the legislation. I know we're supposed to talk about immigration.
No, go ahead.
but-
This is great.
And he was there, and we were trying to find a name for the tax cut legislation. And he goes, let's just call it cut, cut, cut.
No, but it always has to be the America rejuvenating and getting back to work act, or some
America, get back
acronym
to
that spells
work,
out
like
potato
the most
or something.
Republican name. But then I have an immigration story, too. I know you want to get into this.
Well, you'll
but-
remember, Paul Ryan, I've saved this soundbite because I'll never forget.
Okay, yeah, play the soundbite.
August of 2017, just 8 months into the presidency.
I had the opportunity to travel down to Texas, to go to the Rio Grande Valley and spend time with our Border Patrol. When you see what they're up against, it really gives you even greater respect for what they do. They clearly need more tools and more support to do their jobs effectively. That's why we're going to get this done this week.
Yeah, Paul Ryan, time to build the wall.
What
and of
was
course,
the music?
oh, it
on
was
that video?
from Fox News did that or something. I don't know, wherever
you
we
kidding
grabbed
me?
the audio. But anyway,
it made like Paul Ryan sound cool. Like, what's the
we
deal?
did our best back then. Anyway, the point is, that was when he pretended like he was on board with building the wall. But of course, he was opposed to it. And most of the establishment people were, because they were in the back pocket of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. All right. So fast forward, he's building the wall. He builds the wall finally in the final year of his administration. He decides, screw it. This is a national defense thing. We're going to take money from the Pentagon defense budget. You remember that and how controversial it was. And we're going to buy all the supplies. And so
Right.
he's trying to finish the wall. He plans to finish it the first year of his second term, but of course the 2020 election happens. Biden ran almost exclusively on the idea that if you want a wall on our southern border, you're a racist. You're a racist, xenophobic, horrible demon.
Yeah.
So he literally, in the first 2 years of the Biden administration, he took all those supplies that were just sitting there, the U.S. taxpayers paid for, and he started selling it off at a discount because he didn't want the next president, or Congress for that matter, to be able to empower building the wall. I mean, the man is not on our side, Mercedes. But then, just yesterday, unbelievable, the hypocrisy, the double standard, the absolute lying deceit from the Biden administration. They announced that they had to build over 20 miles of new wall on our southern border because apparently there's a crisis of illegal crossings down there on the southern. Who knew? Did you have any idea? I had no idea that there were millions of people crossing our border illegally.
Yeah, look, I think Mayorkas has to be the most ineffective Department of Homeland Security secretary that I have ever seen. The mere fact that he has refused to listen to the men and women from our border agents who are on the front line every day, at some point being assaulted by some of these
Daily.
illegal criminal aliens,
Mm-hmm.
then now all of a sudden it's like, oh, we got to waive the regulation. Buddy, it's too late. You're letting thousands and thousands of illegal immigrants into the country, and there's no stopping it.
By the
And
way,
it's too little too late, man. It's too little too late. You got to shut down that border quicker than quick, and you got to not just catch and release and allow illegal immigrants to come in and stop the flow immediately. It's not just even about building the wall or 20 miles of the wall. Not enough.
right.
Not enough.
Really, this is a policy problem that goes well beyond the wall. But it's nice to see there's that. Listen, we're number one, we're a year away from an election, so now they have to act like they care. Number two, they're actually getting heat from the mayor of New York, the governor of New York, the mayor of Chicago, the mayor of D.C., saying, "What the hell? We didn't sign up to be a border town. Let Texas and Arizona deal with all of this." But you just mentioned something. Mayorkas is saying we have to waive regulations. Do you know what they're doing? He's saying it's such an emergency that we have to build this wall like tomorrow that they're demanding that in regulations protecting endangered species down in the border region be waived. In other words, let the pumas die, let the critters get killed, let the animals go extinct. We need to build the wall. Imagine if Trump, in fact, Trump did try to do that, and they tried to block the wall with all of these ridiculous
they were like,
endangered
he's
species.
insensitive to the endangered. Oh, I heard it all. I remember.
And now Mayorkas is saying just that.
But remember, it's basically the reason to build the wall, according to their mentality, meaning the left's mentality, is that, as Alejandro Mayorkas says, it's in order to prevent unlawful entries into the United States in the project areas. So it's to not allow them to come in through those areas that are not the ports of entry, which in the minds of these Democrats, it's like, let them go through the ports of entries and apply for quote-unquote asylum. But then because the laws are so messed up, they're going to end up coming into the country anyways and waiting for these court cases that never happen or happen 10 years later that they don't even show up to.
You're 100% right. This is just to keep this is an imaging thing. They don't want the pictures. They don't want the videos of people crossing the border illegally. They want it to look orderly, but we're still going to have all of these illegal immigrants. By the way, what's the name of the Secretary of Homeland Security again?
Alejandro Mayorkas.
Oh, muchas gracias, Mercedes.
De nada.
Coming up, if you want to go to the Army-Navy game, we'll tell you this story a little later in the program. If you're planning on going to the Army-Navy game because your child is at a service academy or you're a veteran of the military, you're out of luck because your hotel room is being given to illegal immigrants. We'll tell you about that later in the program. Right now it's 5:44, and I want to tell you about New Look Home Design. Now, if you need a new roof, you know you need New Look Home Design because they're the gold standard in roof replacement here in the area. They've been at it for 20 years. But did you know they can also provide beautiful siding for your home, too? And, boy, this is not your grandfather's siding. I have New Look siding on my home, and it looks phenomenal. Take my advice. Call New Look. They've got a great offer right now. You'll get